Alex stood at the door of Josephine's home, his hand trembling as he raised it to knock. It had been months since he had last stepped foot here, months filled with regret and bitter realization. He never thought things would get so bad with Mia. But now, here he was, hoping Josephine would take him back. He knocked softly at first, almost hoping no one would hear him. But then, as if by fate, the door creaked open. There stood Josephine, her face calm and unbothered. In a sparkling African city full of life and luxurious living, there lived a woman named Josephine. At 30 years old, she was known for her warm smile and a heart full of love. Josephine lived with her husband, Alex, and their 2 young children in a cozy apartment that seemed to sparkle with happiness. To anyone who looked in, Josephine and Alex seemed like the perfect couple. Their home was a blend of joy and comfort, and Josephine worked diligently as a businesswoman, balancing her career with the demands of family life. Alex was charming and friendly, the kind of person who made friends easily and was always seen around town. However, beneath this polished surface, trouble was brewing. There was another woman, Mia, who had been intruding into their lives in a way that seemed more than a mere inconvenience. Mia was young and lived for social media fame. Her posts were a constant showcase of her glamorous life. Flashy clothes, fancy dinners, and most disturbingly, frequent appearances with Alex. Josephine first noticed the signs of trouble on a hot afternoon while scrolling through her phone. She came across a video on TikTok. Mia and Alex laughing together, Mia calling him hubby. Josephine's heart sank. She set her phone down, her mind racing with disbelief and hurt. "I can't believe this," Josephine whispered to herself, her eyes welling up with tears. How could he do this to us? Determined to confront the issue head-on, Josephine decided to send Mia a message. She typed with trembling fingers, trying to keep her tone calm. "Alex is married, and I need you to stop this. It's hurting us." Mia's reply came quickly, and it was harsh. "Oh, please, Josephine. If Alex is so unhappy with you, why should I stop? Maybe you should look at yourself before blaming others." Josephine read the message and felt a mix of anger and sadness. She stared at the screen, her heart pounding. Who does she think she is? Josephine muttered under her breath. Their conversation quickly spiraled into insults. Josephine tried to remain composed, but Mia's taunts were relentless. "You're just a jealous wife," Mia's final message read. "Get over it." Josephine was devastated. She tried to block Mia on all her social media accounts, hoping that this would end the torment. But Mia's posts continued to appear, flaunting her time with Alex, each one a reminder of the betrayal. One evening, Josephine came home to find Alex casually scrolling through his phone. He was wearing a new shirt, one she'd seen in Mia's latest post. She couldn't hold back any longer. "Alex, we need to talk," Josephine said, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. Alex looked up, feigning surprise. "What about?" "This shirt," Josephine said, pointing to the shirt he was wearing. "I've seen it in Mia's posts." "What's going on?" Alex sighed, looking away. "Those pictures are old, Josephine. We've talked about this. Mia and I are not together anymore." Josephine's frustration boiled over. "Then why does she keep posting about you? Why does it feel like everything I see is a reminder of your betrayal?" Alex's face grew defensive. "I don't know what else to say. She's just trying to get attention." Josephine was not convinced. Even Alex's family had noticed the strain and had voiced their concerns. His mother had scolded him, saying, "You need to put an end to this nonsense, Alex. You're hurting your family." But Alex had brushed off their worries, insisting that he was done with Mia. Josephine, meanwhile, felt trapped in a cycle of denial and betrayal. Every time she thought she might find peace, Mia's posts and Alex's denials dragged her back into a whirlwind of emotional turmoil. As the chapter closes, Josephine stands at the edge of a breaking point. The life she once thought was perfect is unraveling, leaving her to go through a storm of heartbreak and uncertainty. She knows that finding her way through this mess won't be easy, but she is determined to hold on to her dignity and seek a better future for herself and her child. Josephine sat at the kitchen table, her hands trembling as she stared at her phone screen. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind she usually enjoyed, sipping tea and listening to the distant sounds of life outside. But today, peace was the farthest thing from her mind. Her heart pounded in her chest as she scrolled through Mia's latest post on TikTok. There he was, Alex, her husband, smiling as if nothing was wrong, standing next to Mia in a shiny new shirt Josephine hadn't seen before. Mia had her arm draped around him, laughing, calling him hubby in the caption. The sight twisted something deep inside Josephine. She knew Alex denied everything, but how could she ignore this? How could she keep pretending? She felt the familiar sting of tears in her eyes. This had been going on for months, ever since she gave birth. She remembered the sleepless nights, trying to soothe their baby while Alex would come home late, claiming he was busy at work. She wanted to believe him. She really did. But now, with every post Mia made, every little public display, the truth was becoming impossible to hide. Josephine's fingers hovered over her phone. She couldn't take it anymore. She opened the messaging app and typed out a message to Mia, her heart pounding with anger and frustration. Josephine, you know he's married. Why can't you just leave him alone? It didn't take long for Mia to reply. Mia, oh, please. If he wanted to be with you, he wouldn't be with me, would he? The words hit Josephine like a slap. Her breath caught in her throat, but she wasn't going to let Mia have the last word. Not this time. Josephine, you're ruining a family. Do you even care? Mia, maybe if you were a better wife, he wouldn't need me. Josephine's hands shook as she read the message. The anger flared hotter, and before she could stop herself, she typed back furiously. The two women went back and forth, their insults sharp and cutting. Josephine knew it was pointless, but she couldn't stop. Every word from Mia felt like a wound reopening, and Josephine found herself lashing out, desperate to defend herself, her marriage, her dignity. Eventually, the argument ended as suddenly as it had started. Josephine stared at the screen, her heart racing, her body tense. The room felt colder now, the sunlight from the window harsh on her skin. She wished it had brought her some relief, but it hadn't. If anything, she felt worse. From that day on, Josephine blocked Mia on every platform. She tried to distance herself from the poison that Mia seemed to spread, but the damage was already done. Every time Mia met Alex, she made sure to post about it, whether it was on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. It was as if Mia wanted the whole world to see what she was doing, as if she enjoyed causing Josephine pain. When Josephine confronted Alex, he denied everything as always. He swore that those pictures were old, that Mia was only trying to stir up trouble. But Josephine couldn't shake the nagging doubt. Those are old photos, he'd say, his face serious, his voice steady. I'm not seeing her anymore, Josephine. I swear. But Josephine knew better. She saw the same shirt Alex wore in Mia's videos. She noticed the small things. The way his phone always seemed to be facing down. The odd hours he would suddenly leave the house without explanation. The lies were piling up, and each one chipped away at whatever trust she had left in him. Even Alex's family had grown tired of his excuses. His mother had once begged him to stop seeing Mia, even cursing the girl for what she was doing to their family. But still, nothing changed. The arguments between Josephine and Alex became more frequent, more intense. And every time Mia's name came up, Josephine could see the guilt flash across his face, no matter how hard he tried to hide it. Mia wasn't just a presence in Josephine's life. She was a shadow that loomed over every aspect of her marriage. It was as if Mia's goal wasn't just to be with Alex, but to destroy everything Josephine held dear. She even had the audacity to send Josephine friend requests on social media, as if to taunt her. Each time, Josephine blocked and deleted the requests, but the damage had already been done. This wasn't how Josephine had imagined her life. She had built a home, started a family, and done everything she could to be a good wife and mother. But now, that dream was being ripped apart. And no matter how hard she tried to hold it together, the pieces were slipping from her grasp. As the weeks passed, Josephine realized that she couldn't live like this anymore. The constant anxiety, the sleepless nights, the endless cycle of doubt and denial. It was too much. She had to make a choice. Was she going to keep fighting for a man who didn't seem to care about her? Or was she going to start fighting for herself? She stared out of the window, watching the sun dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room. For the first time in months, she felt a small flicker of resolve. Maybe it was time to let go of Alex and everything he brought with him. Maybe it was time to choose herself. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows to the small window of Josephine's home. She sat quietly at the kitchen table, the room filled with an unsettling silence. Her baby, tucked in a cradle beside her, slept soundly, unaware of the storm raging inside her mother's heart. For weeks, Josephine had been battling the same thoughts. Every time she looked at Alex, she saw the lies he told. Every time Mia's face flashed on her phone screen with pictures of Alex, her heart twisted in pain. And of course, Alex denies everything as usual, swearing those pictures were old, that Mia meant nothing. But deep down, Josephine knew the standing truth. She sighed, staring at her reflection in a glass of water on the table. It had been so long since she felt happy, truly happy. Ever since Mia came into their lives, it felt like her world was falling apart piece by piece. But today, something felt different. Today, Josephine felt tired. Tired of fighting for someone who didn't seem to care. Tired of feeling small, unimportant. Josephine looked at the small bundle in the cradle and smiled faintly. Her baby was all that mattered now. Suddenly, the front door creaked open and Alex walked in, his face set in a practiced smile. Josephine didn't return it. "Hey, Joe, how's the little one?" he asked, trying to sound casual as he set his jacket on a chair. Josephine didn't look up. She gently rocked the cradle with her foot, her eyes fixed on her child. "Sleeping," she said quietly. There was a long pause. Alex shifted uncomfortably, sensing something was off. "You okay?" he asked, his voice tinged with worry. Josephine finally raised her head and met his gaze, her eyes steady and calm. "Alex, I don't care anymore." He blinked, taken aback. "What do you mean?" "I'm done," she said simply. "I'm done trying to fix this. You can lie all you want about Mia, but I know what's going on." She stood up, her hands steady as she cleared the table. "I'm not going to beg you to stop anymore. If you want to be with her, fine. Do what you want." Alex frowned, looking confused. "Josephine, that's not true. I told you. Those pictures are old. Mia..." "Stop." Josephine cut him off, her voice firm. "I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm done caring about what you do." Alex stared at her, speechless for a moment. He had expected the usual argument, the tears, the questions, the begging for the truth. But Josephine was different now. There were no tears, no anger, just nothing. "Joe, come on," he said, stepping closer. "Don't do this. We can fix this." Josephine shook her head and walked toward the window, watching the sun dip lower. "I don't need to fix anything, Alex. I'm going to focus on me now, on my baby. If you want to keep lying to yourself, go ahead, but I'm not going to let it destroy me anymore." Alex opened his mouth to argue, but he couldn't find the words. Josephine wasn't raising her voice, wasn't demanding answers. She had simply let go, and that scared him. "You're really serious about this, aren't you?" he asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Josephine turned to face him, her eyes filled with a quiet strength he hadn't seen before. "Yes, I am. I'm going to be happy again, with or without you." For the first time, Alex couldn't argue. He saw it in her eyes, the determination, the peace. He realized that Josephine was no longer under his control, no longer waiting for him to change. She was free. Over the next few weeks, Josephine changed in ways Alex never imagined. She poured herself into her small business, learning new skills to improve her business and growing her client base. Slowly, she started making more money, enough to care for herself and her child without relying on anyone. She took better care of herself, too, eating well, dressing nicely, and even laughing more often. Her friends noticed the change first. "Joe, you're glowing," her best friend, Titi, exclaimed one day as they sat together in the park, watching their children play. Josephine smiled, genuinely happy. "I feel free, Titi. I'm not worried about Alex anymore. Let him do what he wants. I've got my own life to live." Titi raised an eyebrow. "So, you're really done with all that drama?" "Completely," Josephine replied. "I'm focusing on me and my baby now. That's all that matters." They laughed, sharing stories about their kids, and for the first time in a long time, Josephine felt truly content. Meanwhile, Alex's life was slowly unraveling. Things with Mia were no longer the fun, carefree romance they once had been. The money he spent on fancy dates and gifts ran out quickly, and soon he couldn't keep up with Mia's expectations. She grew angry, bitter, and eventually the relationship soured. One day, as Alex sat in his empty apartment, thinking about how everything had gone wrong, he realized something. He had lost the one person who truly cared about him. But Josephine had moved on. By the time Alex tried to return to Josephine, hoping to rebuild their life together, it was too late. Josephine was no longer the woman who waited by the door, hoping for change. She had become someone stronger, someone who didn't need him anymore. And for the first time, Alex realized the full weight of what he had lost. The winds of change came swiftly for Alex and Mia. In the beginning, they were happy, flaunting their relationship like a prize trophy for everyone to see. They would go out to fancy restaurants, take endless selfies, and post every moment online. Mia enjoyed the attention. She liked being seen with Alex, showing off her new clothes and their life together. But all of that was starting to fade. Life wasn't as bright as it once seemed. Alex's once thriving business was struggling, and money was running out faster than they could replace it. The new shirts, the fancy dinners, and the constant parties, they all dried up. And with that, Mia's smile slowly disappeared, replaced by a frown that only deepened as their situation worsened. One afternoon, Alex came home from another long day of trying to find work because his business had collapsed, his face tired and worn out. He opened the door to their small, dimly lit apartment. The air felt heavy, and the once vibrant energy of the place had long vanished. Mia was sitting on the couch, staring blankly at her phone. "I can't do this anymore," she muttered under her breath, barely loud enough for Alex to hear. Alex threw his coat on the chair and sighed. "What do you mean, Mia?" She looked up, her eyes tired and dull. "I mean this, us, everything. You said things would get better, but they're not. Look at us, Alex. We can't even afford to buy proper food anymore." Alex's stomach tightened, but he tried to keep calm. "I'm doing everything I can, Mia. Things are just tough right now, but it'll pass. We've been through worse, right?" Mia shook her head and scoffed. "Worse? Alex, we've never been this bad. I'm hungry all the time. I have nothing new to wear, and look at me. I look terrible." Alex glanced at her, realizing for the first time how different Mia looked. Her hair was no longer styled the way it used to be. Her clothes looked worn, and her skin had lost its glow. She did look different, but then again, so did he. "Do you think this is easy for me?" Alex shot back, his frustration finally breaking through. "I'm out there every day, trying to make ends meet, and you're sitting here complaining because you don't have new clothes?" Mia stood up, her eyes blazing with anger. "It's not just about clothes, Alex. It's about everything. I didn't sign up for this. I thought life with you would be fun and exciting, but all we do now is argue. You've changed." Alex turned away, his heart sinking. Maybe she was right. Maybe he had changed. But so had she. This wasn't the Mia he remembered. The one who laughed easily and always seemed so carefree. This Mia was bitter and angry, and to be honest, so was he. Fine, Alex muttered under his breath. Maybe I've changed, but do you think it's any easier for me? I lost everything, Mia. My business is gone. I can barely pay the bills. And whose fault is that? Mia interrupted. You made your choices, Alex. You left Josephine. You chose me. And now look where that's gotten us. The mention of Josephine made Alex freeze. She had always been in the back of his mind, even if he wouldn't admit it. Things were different with her. Stable. She never asked for too much, never made him feel like he wasn't enough. But he had walked away from that life, thinking he would find something better with Mia. Now he wasn't so sure. Mia's voice cracked, bringing him back to the moment. I'm pregnant, Alex, and I can't do this anymore. Her voice was softer now, but the weight of her words hit him like a storm. Pregnant? Alex stared at her, not sure what to say. The world around him seemed to crumble even more. What are we going to do? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, Mia replied, tears filling her eyes. I don't know if I can stay here. It's too much. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of feeling like this. There was silence between them, the air thick with regret. Neither of them knew how to fix what had broken between them. And as the days went by, things only got worse. Mia's pregnancy was hard. She grew weaker, and they had no money for doctors or proper care. Unfortunately, she lost her pregnancy. Alex tried his best, taking on small jobs wherever he could, but it wasn't enough. Mia grew angrier, and Alex grew more distant. One night, after a particularly bad argument, Mia finally had enough. While Alex was out, she packed her bags, quietly gathering what little she had left. She left a note on the table, just a few words scribbled in haste. I'm going back to my father's house. When Alex came home, the apartment felt emptier than ever. He found the note and sat down heavily, reading it over and over. He had lost her too. Now he was truly alone. Outside, life moved on. But for Alex, everything had changed. He had nothing left but the memories of what he had thrown away. And every day, as he struggled to survive, he thought of Josephine, the woman who had once stood by him, the woman he had taken for granted. He wondered what she was doing now, if she was still happy, if she ever thought of him. But deep down, he knew the answer. Alex stood at the door of Josephine's home, his hand trembling as he raised it to knock. It had been months since he had last stepped foot here, months filled with regret and bitter realization. He never thought things would get so bad with Mia. But now, here he was, hoping Josephine would take him back. He knocked softly at first, almost hoping no one would hear him. But then, as if by fate, the door creaked open. There stood Josephine, her face calm and unbothered, a far cry from the emotional woman he once knew. She looked happy. A small boy peeked from behind her, their child, who now looked a little older and healthier than Alex remembered. Alex, she said simply, her voice steady. Josephine, he began, his eyes pleading. I need to talk to you. Please, can I come in? Josephine paused for a moment, considering. This was the man who had hurt her deeply, who had chosen another woman over her, who had denied his wrongdoings again and again. Yet, here he was, looking defeated and broken. All right, she said at last, stepping aside. She didn't owe him this, but something inside her wanted to hear what he had to say. Once inside, Alex sat at the kitchen table, the familiar scent of home washing over him. He looked around at the clean, tidy space that Josephine had carefully created. Everything here felt warm and peaceful, so different from the chaos he had left behind with Mia. I made a mistake, Alex blurted out, unable to hold back. I was wrong. Everything with Mia, it wasn't worth it. I miss you. I miss our family. I want to come back. Josephine sat across from him, her face still calm, though a hint of sadness flickered in her eyes. "You miss me now?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. "After everything? After all the times you told me Mia was just a friend? That those photos were old? You didn't listen when I begged you to stop. You didn't care when I told you how much it hurt me." Alex hung his head, ashamed. I know I hurt you. I was foolish. I thought it would be different with Mia. But things are bad now, Josephine. Really bad." Josephine tilted her head slightly. "Bad how?" "We lost everything," Alex said, his voice shaking. "I lost my job. My business has collapsed. We have no money, and the baby, we lost the baby. Mia left. I'm alone." A heavy silence filled the room. Josephine took a deep breath, feeling a pang of sympathy, but also a strong sense of clarity. She had suffered too for so long, and now it was time to think of herself and her child. "Alex," she began, her voice gentle but resolute, "I'm sorry for what you've been through, but I've changed. I'm not the woman I was before. You see, while you were with Mia, I found myself. I found my strength. I started my own business. I raised our children, and I realized I don't need you to be happy. I'm finally at peace, and I'm not willing to lose that again." Alex's eyes widened in disbelief. He hadn't expected this. He thought Josephine would be waiting for him, ready to take him back with open arms. But now, sitting in front of her, he saw the truth. She had moved on. "Please, Josephine," he whispered, his voice cracking, "give me another chance. I'll change, I swear. We can be a family again." Josephine looked at him, her heart heavy, but her mind was clear. She had given Alex enough chances in the past. This time, it was different. "No, Alex," she said firmly, shaking her head. "I've given you all the chances I could. You made your choice when you left with Mia. Now, I've made mine. I choose my happiness, and I choose my SM children's future. We're doing fine without you." Her words hung in the air like a final note in a song, clear and strong. Alex felt his world crumble around him. He had lost her, truly lost her this time. Without another word, Josephine stood up and walked to the door, signaling that their conversation was over. Alex followed, his heart heavy with regret. As he stepped outside, he turned one last time to look at her. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice small. Josephine nodded, her face softening just a little. "I hope you find peace, Alex, but you won't find it here." With that, she gently closed the door. Alex stood on the porch for a moment, feeling the weight of his mistakes pressing down on him. The life he had once known was gone, and there was no going back. As he walked away, he realized that Josephine had found something he had never appreciated: true strength. Inside the house, Josephine exhaled deeply, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. She had loved Alex once, but that chapter of her life was over. Now, it was time to focus on the future, a future that was bright, free, and hers to shape. Mia sat on the edge of her bed in her father's small house, staring at her hands. They used to be manicured, adorned with shiny rings and bracelets. Now, her nails were chipped and her fingers rough. The room was quiet, save for the distant sounds of village life outside. She sighed deeply, her mind swirling with memories of Alex and the life they once had. But that life had slipped away, and now she had nothing but regret. Mia's father, a kind but firm man, knocked gently on the door and entered. His face showed concern, but there was no pity in his eyes, just the truth. "Mia, you know you can't sit around all day. Life doesn't wait for anyone," he said softly, sitting beside her. "I know, Papa," Mia whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't think it would all turn out like this. I thought I was winning." Her father nodded, resting his large hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes when we think we're winning, we're actually losing. You chased after what wasn't yours, and look where it led you. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes. I thought Alex loved me. I thought I could have everything I wanted, but now I don't even have enough to eat. Her father stood, his expression gentle but serious. It's time to change, Mia. You need to find your own path. There's more to life than chasing someone else's dream. He paused before adding, your aunt has a sewing shop. She's agreed to teach you. It's a good skill, something you can use to build a better future. Mia blinked through her tears. Sewing? She had never imagined herself doing something so simple, so ordinary. But then again, her life wasn't what she had imagined either. Do you think it's too late for me, Papa? She asked, her voice trembling. Her father smiled, a warm, comforting smile. It's never too late to learn to grow. The hardest lessons are the ones that make us stronger. Meanwhile, across town, Josephine stood in front of the mirror in her bright, spacious bedroom. Her reflection smiled back at her. She looked different now, stronger, more confident. Her hair was neatly styled, her clothes elegant but simple. She had become someone she hadn't even known she could be. As she applied a light touch of makeup, there was a soft knock at her door. Her daughter, Amara, peeked in, her wide brown eyes full of curiosity. Mommy, are we going to Grandma's today? Amara asked, bouncing on her toes. Josephine smiled and nodded. Yes, sweetheart, we are. But first, I have a few things to finish. Amara wrinkled her nose. Are you working again? You work a lot now, Mommy. Josephine knelt down to her daughter's level, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Yes, baby, I do. But you know why I work, so I can take care of you and your brother, and so we can have everything we need. And also, because it makes me happy. Amara tilted her head, like when you're smiling when you talk to your friends. Josephine chuckled. Yes, just like that. Her phone buzzed on the dresser, and Josephine glanced at the screen. It was a message from Alex. She didn't even need to open it to know what it said. Another apology, another plea for her to take him back. But Josephine had already made up her mind long ago. Amara looked at the phone and asked, Is that Daddy? Josephine hesitated before nodding. Yes, it is. Is he coming back to live with us? Amara's innocent eyes were filled with hope. Josephine's heart ached a little, but she stayed calm. No, baby. Daddy isn't coming back to live with us. But you know what? That's okay. We're happy just the way we are. Amara looked thoughtful for a moment before giving a small nod. Okay, Mommy. I love you. Josephine hugged her daughter tightly, feeling a deep sense of peace. I love you too, sweetheart. Later that day, Josephine met her mother at their favorite cafe. As they sipped tea, her mother smiled proudly at her. You've come a long way, Josephine, her mother said, her voice warm. I always knew you were strong, but now you are truly free. Josephine smiled softly. It wasn't easy, Mama. There were days when I thought I couldn't get through it, but I did, and now I know what I deserve. I'm not waiting around for anyone to make me happy anymore. Her mother nodded, her eyes twinkling with pride. And that's the best lesson anyone can learn. Back in the village, Mia sat at her aunt's sewing table, watching as her fingers worked slowly over the fabric. It was harder than she had expected, but it felt good. It was something of her own, something she could control. For the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could build something that would last. Her aunt patted her shoulder. You're doing well, Mia. Keep going. You will get better every day. Mia nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. She had a long way to go, but at least now, she knew she was headed in the right direction. As the days passed, Josephine continued to flourish, her business growing, her relationship with her daughter and son blossoming, and her heart finally at peace. Meanwhile, Mia slowly found her footing, humbled by her mistakes but determined to rebuild her life. And Alex, He was still lost in his own regrets, learning too late that the choices he had made had cost him everything that truly mattered. In Josephine's heart, even if she is to accept Alex back, she will give herself enough time before accepting Alex back again. But for now, she is happy and comfortable with the way she is living. In the end, each of them learned a lesson, the kind that life teaches in the hardest way possible. And though their paths had led them in different directions, they had all learned what it meant to move on, to grow, and to face the future with a little more wisdom.